Hello and welcome. My name is Alison Schneider, and I'm the Education and Training Manager at AgeWell, Canada's Technology and Aging Network. In today's webinar, Insights and Lessons from Emerging Entrepreneurs, we will explore the firsthand experiences of our 2024 Emerging Entrepreneur Award winners. They're here to tell us about their journey over the last year. So we have Arjun Puri, who is the co-founder and CEO of Symbiotic AI, and Justin Wyss, founder and CEO of NovaSense Technology Limited. They'll discuss how they're advancing their cutting-edge work and working to improve people's quality of life through innovative technology. The presentation will be split into two parts as they're each presenting separately. They'll have about a 20-minute presentation each. Following that, we'll have time for Q&A. So the last 10 or 15 minutes, you can ask your questions. So we ask that you do this by putting your questions in the chat or in the Q&A box. We will hold those until the end. And during that Q&A session, if you would like to ask your question verbally, you can also raise your hand virtually to ask a question verbally. You can also, excuse my cold, you can also enable the closed captions that would be on your Zoom toolbar if you would like. And I see the meetings being transcribed as well. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for replay on AgeWell's YouTube channel. And I'll also send the link to everyone who has registered so that you can go back, share with people you know, and absorb all of the learnings from today's session. Okay, so without further ado, I will pass things over to Arjun, who will begin his presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Alison. Just confirming you can see my screen?
Yes, it looks good.
Fantastic, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you to AgeWell for having me and Alison for the warm intro, and to all of you for being here. I'm Arjun Puri, the co-founder and CEO of Symbiotic AI, and I'm here to share with you how we're transforming cardiac care with data and artificial intelligence. Since we're spending time talking about digital health innovation, I thought it might be helpful for you to know a little bit about my background and get an understanding of why someone like me can speak to the topic. I've spent about 14 years in digital health innovation and in health and clinical informatics. During that time, I started out as an academic, doing scientific research as an AgeWell HQP, then developing new solutions and bringing them to clinical practice and medical imaging as a CTO of a Canadian digital health company. And I've worked with health systems across Canada, including Ontario, Saskatchewan, and most recently Alberta, where I served as a consultant for health systems on matters of digital health innovation. With that said, my views are my own and not of those organizations who I currently or formerly have represented. So today, I'm going to share aspects of the Symbiotic AI innovation journey with you. I'll share how an idea born from a clinical challenge and academic research became a company developing a solution that can meaningfully improve quality of life for patients and older adults with heart disease. But do keep in mind, this is the journey so far. And at the end of our time together, I'll also share what's on the horizon for Symbiotic AI as next. At Symbiotic AI, our mission is seemingly simple: improving heart care through data science and validated artificial intelligence. Accomplishing that mission, on the other hand, is a complex endeavor. Accomplishing our mission wouldn't be possible without my team, so I also do want to take a moment to give a shout out to them. You can see them on the screen here. We're also supported by amazing advisors, including practicing interventional cardiologists from Alberta and California, as well as experts in technology and commercial law. And there are many more behind the scenes, including partners like the University of Calgary and the University of Ottawa Heart Institute, who I'd also like to give a shout out to. Symbiotic AI started with a challenge that my co-founder noted in more than a decade of published literature. He noted that after the diagnosis of coronary artery disease, choosing optimal revascularization strategies for patients with complex disease was very challenging, and that current clinical care guidelines only accounted for general cardiovascular risk factors. They missed using personalized patient-specific characteristics, even though we often collect them in our EMR data on a daily basis. If you think about it, it's a very human problem, making good decisions. I was in such a situation about 2 years ago when my mom had a heart attack and was diagnosed with coronary artery disease. Even though we had physicians in our family, it was still very difficult to choose the best treatment for her. And then after we did settle on a treatment, 2 weeks after, she had another heart attack. But there is a silver lining. She is okay and she is safe and sound today. But each patient's case is different. The stakes are high. The evidence, while rich, can be difficult to translate into treatment decisions at the point of care. So, with the problem noted by my co-founder and my family experience with artery disease, we got together and asked ourselves a question. Could we use AI to help clinicians see personalized risk and outcome information in real time while keeping them at the center of decision making? And that thought and question is what led us to building Symbiotic AI together. So we dove deep into the problem space and verified the consequences of the challenge. Coronary artery disease is a leading cause of death worldwide. Every year, almost 17 million people die as a result. In some parts of the world, patients will have to wait 15 weeks to get treatment or even be seen by cardiac specialists. And even then, up to 1 in 5 revascularization procedures can fail or have to be repeated. Every day, cardiologists make complex decisions that affect not only how long someone lives, but how well they live. Yet, even with imaging, data, clinical guidelines, treatment decisions and patient outcomes can vary significantly from one physician to another. So the opportunity we recognized at Symbiotic AI was to use data science and AI to bring consistency, personalization, and evidence into those critical moments of decision making with the ultimate goal of improving patient health outcomes. And that opportunity is why we built Revaz AI. Revaz is an AI-enabled prognostic tool that provides personalized risk likelihoods for different treatment options for patients who have coronary artery disease. The models behind Revaz analyze more than 100 patient-specific predictors to model outcomes across medical therapy, PCI or percutaneous intervention, or coronary artery bypass graft or CABG surgery treatment options, giving objective insights to cardiologists before they decide on the treatment. I want to clarify and just say that the goal isn't to replace clinical judgment, it's to complement it. So Revaz really works alongside cardiologists, supporting their workflow through data analysis and forecasting, helping them see how medical therapy, PCI, or CABG may play out for each patient's unique circumstances, solving that decade-old problem that I told you about missing framework that needs to consider patient-specific personalized characteristics in choosing CAD treatments. So why aren't we doing it already? It's because when you're innovating in healthcare, many need a lot more convincing, and that's where Symbiotic AI is today. The most challenging aspect of the innovation journey, in my opinion, is time. You may have heard the term the 17-year odyssey. It's from a very interesting research conducted by Morris in 2011, I believe, and it looked at the time horizon for the realization of benefits of medical research. They looked at medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and other solutions and innovations in their research and suggested that on average, it takes about 17 years for research evidence to reach clinical practice, or as they often say, from the bench to the bedside. But I want to say that 17-year time horizon is not ubiquitous and certainly not universal. And let me tell you, throughout our innovation journey, investors definitely want faster returns than 17 years. So Revaz wasn't developed overnight, but it certainly hasn't been 17 years either. We're about 3 years into the commercialization journey, and we started by training AI models for risk prediction and validating the concept with retrospective data at the Data Intelligence for Health Lab. This work actually predates the company, but we analyzed over 40,000 longitudinal patient cases across Alberta and linked to patient outcomes. Our analysis showed that our models that we had developed for prognostic forecasting were actually more accurate and personalized than what was out there in the market today. But just because something is more accurate doesn't mean that people should just start using it. So what we did next was we started to identify clinical champions who would be end users of Revaz and discussed commercial feasibility with them, as in, is this valuable enough for you that there could be a payment for it? Because businesses that support innovations like these do need to be sustainable, and there needs to be a sustainable business model. So we basically had conversations like, Dr. X, if Revaz had X, Y, or Z, would you use it, pay for it, or ask someone to pay for it? During that consultation period, we heard yeses, we heard yeah, but, and we also heard some no's. But we noted that we were at a point where the concept itself and the description was too ethereal to get direct and accurate feedback, and that we needed a representative concept to be able to show our clinical champions the art of the possible, not necessarily fully functional, but representative. So we built proof of concepts and then moved over to prototypes. And so far, we've working with our interventional cardiologist and users and cardiac surgeon and users, reiterated on the product in 12 versions again so far. And so far, our work has been supported by these amazing organizations over the last 3 years. Whether it's an odyssey or a journey over my career, I found that roadmaps can be very valuable tools. And a commercial roadmap isn't very different. This one is my favorite. It's from a company called Starfish Medical, and it provides a framework for commercialization of medical devices, which Revaz is. You see, innovating in healthcare isn't always akin to building businesses in other verticals. Fundamentals do apply, but for medical device commercialization, founders will have to accomplish milestones in multiple areas of work in parallel, as you'll see on this roadmap. Now, this list isn't exhaustive, but generally on your roadmap, you want to have these areas, including product, usability, technology development, evidence generation, quality and regulatory, manufacturing activities, and also intellectual property development and protection, which you wouldn't have seen on this roadmap here, but is a really important part of the commercialization journey. So if looking at this list makes you a little bit nauseous, or perhaps think that the challenge is insurmountable, take a breath. In early stages, if you have co-founders, this would be a good time to discuss who's accountable for what. And if not, this is usually the time that many innovators will realize that they need help from diverse expertise and start building a team. As I said earlier, the areas of work that I mentioned before aren't exhaustive. Another thing that you have to do as a founder is demonstrate the business case for your innovation. Clearly explaining the value proposition of Revaz to our end users, our payers, and patient benefactors was extremely important. And to demonstrate our business case backed with real world data, we worked with a health economist to conduct an initial health econ analysis. See, the thing is, heart disease doesn't just affect patients. It affects and strains families, clinicians, and health systems. So our goal is to create measurable value at all 3 levels. For clinicians, more faster and confident treatment planning. For health systems, optimized resource use and lower cost of heart care. And for patients, improved quality of life and survival outcomes through data-informed treatment decisions. Our health economics modeling suggests that the use of Revaz could not only make heart care more efficient, but also translate into savings for the health system while improving outcomes. And that's the kind of impact that keeps us motivated and our future customers engaged. We covered this briefly, but if you are building something for the healthcare space, it's important to understand and do some research early on if that product is likely to be a medical device. For us at Symbiotic AI, we did this actually within the first few weeks of exploring the problem space. I suggest going to the Health Canada website as a starting point and reviewing guidances that help you determine if your innovation is a medical device, and if so, which risk-based class identifier it falls under. Keep in mind that depending on where you are and what you're looking to build and which market you're trying to sell your product in, different markets can have unique rules with respect to marketing regulated medical devices. If you feel like you're in over your head, many founders will consult regulatory experts, and we have, but do keep in mind there's a cost to that. So that I always try to remind early innovators that you can also reach out to Health Canada directly for assistance in many areas. It's also very important for you to understand, associated with your regulations that are going to apply to you, which quality and privacy standards are going to apply to you, and on your roadmap, build in how and when you're going to realistically achieve that compliance. And try to remind yourself that evidence generation of effectiveness, of safety of your innovation is going to not only help you drive adoption in the long run, like it has for Symbiotic AI, but it's also essential for regulatory authorization to actually sell your product. So knowing what evidence you should generate and why early was really helpful for our journey. Of course, no innovation journey is without its own challenges. These are some of the key challenges that we've encountered as a company, creating a AI-enabled Class 2 software as a medical device. Clinical data is essential for model development and validation, but access is very tightly governed. So our strategy has been to build privacy-preserving principles, pipelines, and policies, as well as institution-specific governance and accountabilities, meaning certain affiliated partners will take over certain areas of work in order to help us comply with privacy-preserving pipelines and policies. Another challenge is that AI in healthcare doesn't fit neatly into traditional medical device frameworks. It can, but it doesn't always. And understanding how to demonstrate efficacy, safety, and explainability for an adaptive algorithm or a set of adaptive algorithms is an evolving challenge. Proving real-world value, like I mentioned, through evidence generation takes time. It also takes money, but it builds adoption and credibility. And we're investing heavily in our validation studies. And in fact, that's where the vast majority of our spending goes at this point in our maturity. And that's not only just for accuracy, but for collecting data on outcomes, workflows, and costs so that we can convince future customers to purchase the product. Hospitals have complex legacy IT environments, and integrating tools into existing systems securely and seamlessly can be complex. But alongside of that, the adoption and change management support required is also really important. So even when technology works, adoption depends on trust, training, and clinical culture. And we've learned that demonstrating value in real workflows, working with interventional cardiologists is far more persuasive than shiny UIs and accurate performance statistics alone. And finally, scaling a regulated digital health product requires a lot of patience, capital, and strategic partnerships, especially if that's before revenue. So we've tried to focus on building sustainable collaborations with research institutions and learning health systems as our initial path to market. Keep in mind that although these might sound daunting, these are surmountable challenges, and with collaboration, persistence, and support of policymakers, as well as your own advocacy to adapt and or update policy, you can overcome these challenges. Go with the willing. So I want to share some lessons with you from the journey that we've had so far, innovating in the cardiac digital health space. But remember, these are lessons so far, which means that there's a lot more learning to do. The first one is to build with clinicians and not for them. True innovation in healthcare happens when clinical co-design is the solution. And you won't necessarily get it right the first time, but remember, iterative input helps innovation fit real world situations. It helps build trust and actually builds technologies that get used. So it's really important to try to co-develop what you're building, especially if it's not necessarily in a clinical or operational area where you have a lot of expertise. I would suggest also to others, based on our lessons learned, to start regulatory and evidence planning early, proactively, and to set realistic goals for the pace of your innovation journey. I think very few innovators will be here today saying that, yep, it'll be okay if we take the next 17 years to bring our product from the bench to the bedside. For many, it will take that long. But for a lot of us, we want to set some realistic goals to understand when we're going to need more capital, how we're going to balance evidence production and regulatory compliance achievements along our innovation journey. And the final lesson that I want to share with you is to balance innovation and insights. Founders, especially early on, have to be very effective filters, and innovators will have to listen to the signal and filter out some of the noise. And that's one of the most important things founders can do, is to have a balance of those insights that are coming in as inputs towards innovation. And programs like the AgeWell Emerging Entrepreneurship Program and the award played a crucial role in enabling us to move from the idea to implementation stage, really helping us bridge academic research with commercial readiness. So I want to share my gratitude to the UN family and the AgeWell Emerging Entrepreneur Award Program for supporting our journey at Symbiotic AI. So what's next? I'm excited about what's next because we're now entering a really interesting phase of our company, which involves scaling our validation studies, deepening our partnerships, and preparing for regulatory submissions. I'm pleased to share that we recently announced a new partnership with the University of Ottawa Heart Institute, where together we're going to refine and validate Revaz in a new jurisdiction with a new patient population. We'll then leverage the data from our trials for regulatory authorization in Canada, in the US, and in additional international markets. And then our plan will be to launch Revaz commercially and grow our customer base, as well as revenue that will allow us to keep innovating and delivering compelling cardiac decision support solutions. Our long-term vision is to make AI-driven decision support a standard part of patient care so that every patient, regardless of where they're treated, receives the most personalized care possible. So if you're interested in learning more or collaborating, or perhaps referring me to someone who you think would be interested in what we're doing, please reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn or through email. And to close, I want to thank AgeWell and the entire community for their support. Innovation in healthcare is a team effort. It takes clinicians, researchers, entrepreneurs, engineers, and many other professionals working together. So I appreciate everyone's support for where we are in our journey. Thanks to everyone. I'm happy to take any questions.
We're actually going to hold those questions till the end, if that's okay, so that we can make sure we get, the presentation time in. But that's a great reminder to folks to please post your questions for Arjun in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we will get to those at the end. And hopefully we'll have a great conversation there. Thanks for the great presentation, Arjun. So Justin, when you're ready, you can share your screen and take it away. That looks great.
Okay, you all can see my slides? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so today, Arjun already provided great insights on entrepreneurship, especially in the medtech realm and tackling very challenging healthcare problems. I'll maybe have a little bit different, and hopefully I can contribute a bit more to what Arjun was sharing regarding the journey. So my name is Justin Wyss. I'm a PhD candidate in biomedical engineering at UBC. And I'm actually defending my PhD in about 10 days. So it's a bit of a stressful period, but exciting. But I'm happy to talk also about like the entrepreneurship journey for me. So I'm very fortunate to have been given this opportunity to conduct research a traditional way, but also tickle my toes a little bit in entrepreneurship. So this actually started all the way back during my master's back in 2018. But I'll talk a little bit more about the whole history and the journey. But what I'm trying to say is that this experience by conducting research, but also have an entrepreneurship mindset really changed the way we perceive how we want to conduct our research. Because instead of just focusing on scientific discoveries, what it actually does, and Arjun pinpointed on that, is understanding the problem of your users, of the healthcare system, and really co-create and develop a solution that actually can be something that can go into market and really create and make a difference. So to start off, I would like to, because my audience when I'm presenting is always different, but I would like for you all to understand what we are actually trying to do. So because this is a webinar, we're probably all sitting, and most of us, I can assume with some confidence, have an intact sensory motor feedback system. But right now, when you're sitting listening to my talk, you feel potentially the discomfort when you're sitting too long. So you have that sensory feedback, knowing that, okay, it's getting uncomfortable. I'm going to readjust if you have that motor feedback as well. But now imagine you do not have that. You imagine you are living with a spinal cord injury, you have no or mobility, or you're a geriatric population, you're in a long-term care facility, you're not able to move, but you have that sensation. So what happens there is one of the biggest problems is pressure injuries. So pressure injuries develop because of constant pressure and also not able to readjust and move. And that is one of the biggest issues, a complex problem that people in the elderly community face, as well as people living with spinal cord injury and bedridden patients. So this is caused mainly because of injury, illness, or age, causing them to be bedridden and immobile. But there are actually over 200 risk factors associated with pressure injuries. So if you consider all your intrinsic factors, that changes how pressure injuries will develop. So this is a big global problem and remains a global problem. And when we look at the news, just in Canada for now, we can see several different healthcare challenges with pressure injuries. And one of the ones I would like to pinpoint is actually where a patient had to request for medical aid in dying. And that is because they develop a pressure injury because the hospitals, one, maybe didn't have the right equipment, but also didn't think about pressure injuries that it can develop. So in this case, a person living with paraplegia, quadriplegia, he developed a stage 3, stage 4 pressure injury. So that's a pressure injury that goes all the way down to the bone. And why this is a very challenging thing is once a pressure injury develops, it's very costly, it's time consuming, they lose their independence, their quality of life goes down. It's expensive for the hospital and the healthcare setting, but also their own costs regarding emotional and psychological costs and physical suffering that they endure, but also their family. So we understand the problem of pressure injuries. And when we look at the statistics just in North America and globally, it is very costly to the healthcare systems. And as I pinpointed before, there is no prevention system or treatment for pressure injuries. There's no gold standard because there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to pressure injuries. So in an entrepreneurship journey, before we actually dive in and think like, yes, well, we have an idea that is going to be fantastic and great. Most of the times we think that it is, but it might not be applicable to the actual users. It might not actually be a solution for them. So one of the very important things when we conduct our research, but also in entrepreneurship, to create a solution, a product that actually can work, is co-development, co-creation, understanding the problem, talking to the potential users, your user group. And in our case, we were trying to bridge networks and understand the problem, talking to people living with spinal cord injuries, talking to people in the aging community, talking to people who developed or are susceptible to pressure injuries, but also to the healthcare professionals that deal with pressure injuries constantly. So wound care nurses and physicians, but also to their family members. And I was lucky enough to have that opportunity where I could shadow clinicians and talk to patients directly as well. And that was my first experience during my master's time where I actually could see pressure injuries in real life and really understand the impact that they have, not just on the patients, but to everybody around dealing with it. And again, collaboration is key. So we had the Praxis Spinal Cord Institute that supported us from the very early stages, but then that was for the spinal cord injury population. But aging and spinal cord injury, they go hand in hand, and that really increases the risk. So having the opportunity to work with AgeWell, with CABI, as well as having the facility at the Vancouver Coastal Health and Vancouver General Hospitals to work with the clinicians there, it's all key to really understanding what is the problem that we're trying to address, and can we come up with a solution that really can address the major pains for them? So that is where we needed to understand, identify your problem, understand the need, what would be valuable to them, what we need to develop, as well as our mission. So in our cases, the problem is there's no gold standard in prevention. So there are a lot of products out there that are aiming to do so, but there's no prevention system out there that can really be classified as a prevention technology. The need is we need to understand the individual characteristics of a person. So can we create something that is personalized to them? A system that can be a companion that can, one, educate them, but also provide that alert to know when a pressure is going to develop and provide them that ease of mind, as well as to educate them, but also alert their healthcare professionals if they're around, their caretakers. So the mission is to create an accurate and personalized solution for prevention for pressure injuries, enhancing both the quality of life in the clinical as well as in the community setting. So yes, we are trying to create a medical device that can be adaptable in the clinical setting, so in hospitals, but we don't want to ignore the community settings, so home settings. Can we create something that people can take home with them? Can they use it at home and be a guide so we can prevent them from even reaching the hospital so they can live their life and increase their quality of life? So we came up with a solution, the Smart Sheet. So it's a soft, flexible, and stretchable pressure and shear sensing technology that is able to monitor movement patterns, pressure magnitudes, and shearing continuously. So the idea is that it needs to be soft and flexible and shape conformal to the surface that they're applying it on, so the wheelchair cushion or the mattress, but also to their unique body shape, so to increase the accuracy. So we want to be accurate and also non-damaging. So it has to be soft and compliant. In addition to that, so that's the physical device, but we need to understand what that signal means. What does pressure and shear mean for that specific individual? So we want to provide value. We want to provide education and insights for prevention, not just to the user, but also to the healthcare professionals. So the main goal going from sensing technology for us is going into the AI realm. So again, Arjun pinpointed what he's been doing. So we also are shifting into the AI realm, because understanding that and providing that insight is the next step, and that's where we're moving towards. So our team consists of myself. So I've been working on soft and smart sensing technologies for over 8 years, and I've been driving this innovation. And again, because of the support of my supervisor, Dr. John Madden, and giving me the opportunity with UBC to actually conduct entrepreneurship and actually get that perspective of how to conduct research that can become a commercial product. But also Dr. Lindo Roy, who is assisting, he's a postdoctoral fellow in electrical engineering, who is assisting with the material fabrication, because one of the challenges that we face is, yes, we understand we created a sensing system and we're working towards a prevention algorithm. But when we want to commercialize something, we want to commercialize it in a most cost-effective way. And also we want to scale up our production. So one of the things that we're working on as well is, can we scale up our fabrication process and advance the materials that we're using to get to that stage. But again, talking to the example about when a person was requesting for medical aid and dying. So the Smart Sheet technology, how it can work, and this again, it can change. But as of now, what it can do is you can place it on any surface that you might be sitting or lying on. And we have your user information, so the characteristics. So as I pinpointed again, everybody is different, everyone is unique. So that will change the way our algorithm will process when a pressure injury will develop. So we'll have that in our backend, that's data. So the data collection is also from the continuous monitoring of pressure and shear, and our algorithm processes that and provides a smart notification, a personalized smart notification to them to prevent pressure injuries. And when it comes to the medical setup, in a clinical setup, what happened before where a person developed a stage 4 pressure injury because they left them on a regular, in the emergency room on their bed, and they didn't check on them, they didn't rotate them accordingly, they developed a pressure injury. So one of the ideas that to advance patient care, we could integrate our Smart Sheet system into the hospital settings, into their beds, into their stretchers. And again, the same thing as I discussed before, how it would work is that we would provide the smart alerts to the caretakers in the facilities, maybe in the ER, maybe in other hospital rooms or settings or long-term care facilities. The idea is that we will monitor the patient or the user continuously and will provide that information to whoever needs it so that we can prevent the formation of pressure injuries. One of the other things as doing this entrepreneurship is, next to the research, is doing research on the market. We have to understand how big our market is, because I know money isn't everything, but we do need some money to survive and to be operational. So understanding where we fit in the market is key. Understanding who our potential users will be is key. And there's many ways to conduct a market research and understanding your market size and where you fit. So this is again just showing us the bubble of how big it can be and where we would fit in. So that's all a little bit part of I guess, business and marketing that we would have to conduct as well, to really understand where you are fitting looking at how you compare against your competitors. So here's just a short overview of how we differentiate when it comes to the sensing technology, how we differentiate ourselves to them. So on the left, we can see one of the commonly used, let's say as of now, market leaders for pressure mapping. So they are used for short-term assessments only, not continuous monitoring, and they're only operational in hospital settings. So they can't be used in community settings. A patient can't bring them home, or a user can't bring them home and use them. One, because they're extremely expensive. Even hospitals can't afford many of them. So they really only use it for high-risk individuals. And secondly, as you can see, when I'm applying pressure on a soft surface, they tend to wrinkle. They tend to tent, which can cause inaccuracies in reading, so false positives and negatives. So that's one of the challenges that we were trying to address in the engineering side of things, that we want to be shape conformable, soft, but accurate. And accuracy, part of that means that it can actually measure pressure accurate to the actual body and to the surface profile. So shape conformability was a key thing. Stretchability was key there. So that came with a bunch of other engineering challenges that we needed to apply and address. But the other thing is that next to pressure is the main causative factor when it comes to sitting and lying down. But shear is a second main causative factor that applies or changes how pressure injury will develop. So having the capability of measuring both pressure and shear, that separates us from the current market. And that's what we were trying to do as well. And in addition to that, another key factor of what we're trying to do is working towards that personalization, that prevention algorithm, to create that alert system that understands who is sitting and who is lying on our smart sheet, that we really can provide valuable information for prevention. Regarding path to market, so there's just a glimpse of how where we are right now and what we have been doing. So when we talked from the point where we received the Emerging Entrepreneur Award from AgeWell, we have been conducting performance and validation studies, so with users. So we scaled up our smart sheet sensor to a standard wheelchair seating area, and we're conducting right now user tests with real people. We're starting off with healthy and able-bodied individuals to get a baseline, to understand, okay, one, does it work as it should? Also, how comfortable and easy to use is it? So then later on, once we have that baseline, we are going to move into the more at-risk population, so such as the aging population and people living with spinal cord injuries. The other part is the prevention algorithm that we're developing. So that is separate from the smart sheet. We're using their near-infrared spectroscopy, looking at tissue oxygenation to really understand what pressure and shear does to your tissue. So oxygenation, because oxygenation relates to the pressure injury formation, lack of oxygen on that specific tissue region that will cause ischemia and leads to necrosis or tissue death. And that's how pressure injury develops. And in addition, something that is always going to be ongoing is a market study and user study. So we will always be conducting and looking at how the market is evolving. It's a dynamic market. So we have to understand exactly how our competitors are doing. Maybe the need changes. So that is where we always need to be in constant communication with our user groups, with our supporters, with our collaborators, really update them what we're doing and understand what they're doing and what they need. Going to research conferences and webinars like this is exactly key to understand what currently is being done, and are we still on track, or do we need to pivot? Do we need to change something? So that is an ongoing process, and that will never end. When we looked at milestones, so funding and collaboration and product development. So funding has been very, very important for us to progress in our research and also to keep things alive and to move on to the next phase. So we had the good fortune to be able to collaborate with many big organizations in the spinal cord injury realm as well as in the aging realm, but also when it comes to insurance. So WorkSafe BC is one of the main insurance bodies in British Columbia. But as Arjun also mentioned, is that when we need to conduct, when we are building a medical device, one of the things is that we have to consider, well, first, what class are we? Are you, first of all, a medical device? And then determine what class you are going to be. But then also, it is one key thing and one challenge that we are still facing, that I'm still facing, is the pricing strategy, the cost. So not the cost of fabrication, but the pricing of how much is a user, for example, willing to pay out of pocket, but also can we create a deal with insurance bodies that they can cover the cost, a reimbursement strategy with them. So every province has a different system. Every country will have a different system. So that is one of the challenges with the medical device, that how do we integrate ourselves? How can we create a product that one can be affordable to the masses, not just in the clinical space, but also something like for what we are trying to do, create a product that can go into the community setting as well. And regarding product development, we incorporated in 2022, but I've been doing this while doing my PhD. So kind of splitting two worlds. But again, it provided me with this unique perspective of we need to think about the different needs, not just the research needs and engineering challenges, but how does this really apply to the user? So and again, regarding traction, we're doing our user studies right now, which is exciting. We're working with the Smart Sheet sensor with users, and hopefully very soon we can include the at-risk population as well with our study to really understand the performance with them. But also when it comes to the prevention algorithm, again, we're developing it right now. We're collecting data, and hopefully, again, we can include the at-risk population because there are, again, so many different risk factors regarding pressure injuries. We're trying to understand this. There's a lot of data that we need to collect to really create this prevention system, this smart system overall for prevention. And yeah, so that's where we are right now. And that's one of the challenges. So that's what we're doing next, or we're still doing. But we have been fortunate with this funding. So thank you, Adrian and the UN family, for providing this one opportunity to join this great community, but also having that funding to continue this research. And because of this research as well, this funding that we have been, the funding and award that we received, it has in many ways contributed to a trickle effect because of that, we're able to also collaborate and get new funding for the upcoming years down the road to really show that this is really a key thing. And we have such great organizations that are supporting our research. And so others are willing to join as well. They see that, yes, there is a need, and we have support from other great organizations. Like that is a validation. And so this is really great to have. So money isn't everything, but it's more the network and the support that we receive because we need to work together. Research is a team effort, and the same is with entrepreneurship. So again, thank you so much for that. And this is again showing the collaboration that we have gained. And down the road, I can't mention right now because it's still confidential. There will be some positive news coming out regarding the aging community that regarding funding that we have. And hopefully I didn't drag this out too long, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And this is a QR code if you want to collaborate or talk more about entrepreneurship or the research, please reach out on my LinkedIn as well, or you can send me an email as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Justin. Yes. And Charlene also says in the chat, you need to work together. Yes, very much a collaborative sport, entrepreneurship, as well as research. And I'm glad that you highlighted, Justin, some of the co-research that you've undertaken, because that's definitely an important step to understanding and defining the needs of your population that you're hoping to support. So thanks for making note of that as well. Oh, can you please show your last slide with the email again? Is that for Justin, I guess?
Yes, I can share that again. Okay. Is it being shared? I'm not sure. Is it?
It is now.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, JKM Wyss.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Great.
Just let me know when to stop sharing and I'll stop. Should be good now?
Take a picture of it as well. That's always a good tactic.
I can also type it in the chat, actually, if that's better. Yeah.
Okay, that can be easier for folks as well.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so no questions from the audience just yet. People must be thinking. Also, a reminder that you're welcome to raise your hand and we can unmute you and you can ask a question if it's easier that way. I'll start with a question though, because from the AgeWell perspective, we're very excited that the Family Foundation has generously supported our Emerging Entrepreneur Awards program. And one of the reasons AgeWell supports this program is we really want to get things in the real world, right? That is the purpose of all the research that we support and all the students that we're training to be the next leaders. We really want these real world impacts. So the question that we always get asked is, how can we speed up that research to real world application? And in both of your experiences, because you're working in the healthcare field, it's especially difficult, or not difficult, a lengthy experience. So what do you think? What would help to increase the speed of the process? Could it be human resources, obviously money, different policy or government action? What do you think? Who'd like to go first?
I can maybe go first. So this is actually a very challenging question and maybe a little difficult to answer because it depends. It depends on what we're actually tackling, because when it comes to the complex healthcare system, let's say a problem that we're trying to address, maybe cardiovascular, what I'm doing with pressure injuries. Yes, we can come up with a solution quickly that might help or might mitigate some of the risks at a time, but we also need to be careful that we want to actually create something that actually has value and is not more damaging. One of the things with hospitals that I've learned is that they can be considered dinosaurs. It's very hard to enter the sector if you don't show true value. So even if you're just a little bit better than what they're doing right now, they might not accept it. They might not change it. You really need to show that you are contributing to the system, that they're going to save a lot of money, and that it doesn't complicate things for them. So that's one of the challenges. So I believe to really tackle this thing, it comes back to collaboration. Really understand the ecosystem that you're in. So talk to your clinicians, talk to hospital administrators, talk to policymakers, and understand the problem that is there. And maybe with the policymakers, you can change things that actually will contribute to a faster translation from research to an actual product that can help. So I believe that it's really get out there, try to talk, understand the problem, and if you have a solution in mind and what you can contribute to it, I think it's worthwhile to share that and really collaborate. And maybe again, funding is key, right? But that's also hard to get. But that I think it's just understand the problem. I think that's the first step, and with that, I think a lot of ways to collaborate and push that message out, it will carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's excellent, Justin. I think echoing a lot of what you shared and building on it, I think Allison AgeWell is doing a lot. And having had the privilege of seeing AgeWell evolve over the last decade, congratulations on the 10th year anniversary, by the way. AgeWell offers advocacy, policy support, funding support, and I think those are very essential ingredients to keep going. But pace is important. And I mentioned this in my presentation. And by that, I don't mean just go fast and break things. Because as Justin said, you come into healthcare, you come fast and break things, people are going to kick you out. In a lot of other industries, disruption is looked at as a positive aspect or characteristic of change. But in healthcare, people's lives are at risk. So disrupting things is challenging. So I think one of the things that we can do that's more effective is helping collaborators in the clinical health system space understand the pace challenges of startups, and helping startups understand the challenges with innovating by the side of your desk, which a lot of health systems and clinicians tend to do because their day jobs are to provide care to patients on a daily basis. So I think with a better understanding, you as an entrepreneur can have a better understanding of how fast can your customers and collaborators actually go, and then pacing yourself to, yes, at times, ask if they can go faster, but if they can't, help them, lift them up, and enable them to go faster. And the way that we're doing that is for our validation trials, we're looking for funding support not only just for the work that we need to do to adapt and refine the product for new customers and new trial sites, but also so that those trial sites don't have to give up a nurse practitioner to enroll patients during middle of care for a validation trial. So being able to offer them funding support also de-risks the trial opportunity for them, thereby producing really valuable evidence that can help the entrepreneur and the company, as well as the health system, be more informed about the potential upside. So I think the one area where I would say there's an opportunity is to provide more funding support for validation trials, in addition to some of the catalyst support that AgeWell has provided for a very long time.
Thank you. That's always nice to get a plug. That's fantastic. That kind of reframing of the way you're approaching it, enabling them to maybe speed up a little bit is a great way to approach partners and make sure people aren't pushed beyond their limit, because as we know, the healthcare system is already very much pushed beyond its limit. Yes, Justin.
No, I was just going to pinpoint regarding a product. What I've seen or like learned is that a lot of companies or startup companies, they fail. It's because they did not get that insight from the actual need from their potential users. So that is also why it can prolong, because they don't have that insight. They come up with a device and it actually is not valuable. So I would just, again, try to reiterate that. It's like, if you have an idea, really talk to your potential user group to really understand what they actually need, what they actually want, because that will also speed up the things. Because if you have that validation from your user group, that carries a long way if you apply for funding, because then you can show that you have actual data, you conducted the work, you talk to your potential users why this can be profitable and really can have an impact. That will sell. And I think I know a lot of questions in the chat are talking about how they could get funding. I think that is one of the key things as well, because that is data that you can really generate and really quote when you are trying to reach out for potential funding.
Great. Okay, so we have someone with their hand up. So Shanor, I'm going to allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself now if you'd like to ask a question.
Thanks so much. Thanks both Arjun and Justin. My question is twofold. One is, do you have advice on how to manage the regulatory pathway? Because it can get quite expensive with healthcare, and even for staged pilots, you have to prove that your application is safe, etc., etc. And then the second question to you was, what are the 3 top tips that you can provide that would move organizations, startups from pilots and validation to contract? Because you can go for years with just pilots. Thank you.
Those are excellent questions, Shane. Justin, if you're open to it, I'm happy to take them on and pass it over to you for more insights. So advice on managing the regulatory pathway. You're right, it can be very expensive. So for startups looking to manage their costs and understand how they're going to navigate that pathway, my advice is always, you need foundational knowledge as a founder or as an entrepreneur, but you do not need to be the expert in what you need to accomplish. And going back to that roadmap, argument that I made during my presentation, I think it's helpful for you to start engagement proactively with regulatory agencies. A lot of times, entrepreneurs and founders will think, oh, if I go talk to X regulatory authorization or agency too early, maybe they'll just deny my product or say this is something that's stupid or not innovative or would never pass. And I think I'm trying to reassure everyone on the call that regulatory agencies are not like that in reality. You can reach out to Health Canada independently and have very frank conversations with respect to support with device classification, evidentiary requirements, predicate devices, and so on. But often in the entrepreneurship space, you have to do things in parallel. And that's where there's an opportunity cost with you as the founder or an entrepreneur in the organization taking on that entire responsibility without having the necessary and requisite expertise. And that's where I would say stop at the foundation. And if you can, have a staged approach towards executing on your regulatory strategy. For us in practice, that involved creating a regulatory strategy that mapped out our pathway, potential predicate devices, as well as defining our indications for use, as well as our use case settings, and then sharing that with a regulatory consultant and putting together an initial strategy. Then we had that vetted by a regulatory consultant in another jurisdiction and said, okay, this is the strategy. We now need capital to go execute on it and work towards capturing the capital. So I think that incremental approach to saying, this is my plan, go get the capital for it, execute on a small part of it, and then move on is helpful. Even when it comes to achieving quality compliance, it's a long journey and it has to be a sustainable journey. It's not about achieving compliance, doing an audit, and then things are done. No, you'll have repeat audits and check-ins with auditing agencies to ensure that you're following your quality management system standard operating procedures. So if you don't think it's beneficial to your startup to implement those SOPs until a little bit later in the journey to accomplish quality compliance, be mindful of the hard deadline for when they should be implemented, as well as what proactive work you can do to at least start developing those SOPs, as opposed to going straight to the implementation. And then the 3 top tips to move startups from validation pilots to contracts. It's hard to be that succinct, but I can share maybe the 2, and I'll ask Justin to share 3 more if that's not too much of a burden. I'd say if you are doing validation pilots, work with your champions, both administrative and executive, to help define go, no-go criteria. And by that, I don't mean on the validation part of what you're working on, but if we were to achieve X, would you be interested in paying X or Y for the product? And those sorts of benchmarks can help you efficiently move over a little bit over to, validation pilots from, academic realm to paid pilot realm. Justin, over to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot to echo, and like you basically covered everything. I guess maybe what I can contribute is that having a regulatory consultant that will be the expert in that sense. So again, have the fundamental idea of like the process with Health Canada, but also FDA, depending on where you want to operate in. Have that overall big picture and understanding like the process and what your class is. That's the minimum knowledge that you should have. But then consult with your regulatory consultant because they will have a lot more insights and they also can provide you with better ideas of how to navigate the challenge of regulatory. The one thing is that we come to pilot, it costs a lot of money. Depending on what you're doing, it will cost a lot of money. So how can you get that funding? That's a question that we're always asking ourselves. Like, it's a difficult thing. But again, it's going back to collaboration. If you're not associated with university, like I am fortunate enough to be with UBC right now, and I can go through ethics to the UBC board and get it all done. If I was independent, it's like another challenge that you have to face. If you can find a collaboration with maybe a professor or a university group that can help maybe you do some of your pilot studies or research, because there are a lot of organizations like MyTax, they would fund several things. So look for funding where you can potentially get a university linked with your project or your product. The other thing is that if you can collaborate with healthcare professionals, having them on board, they don't have to be part of your actual company, but if you have them as an advisor, for example, or somebody who's collaborating with you, it goes a long way, especially when it comes to regulatory as well, because you have somebody who is an expert in this field, and they're endorsing you. They're like championing you. So that's also very key for you to process and also get funding with that. So I would just say, try to collaborate, find people who can endorse you, who can advise you, and look for organizations that actually have funding for fabrication that also deal with university and companies, because there are a few around in Canada.
Great. some great advice. If you're looking for specific advice, please feel free to email either of the presenters today. We really appreciate both of you taking your time to share your experiences and insights and expertise with our audience. Thanks to our audience for some great questions as well. And I'm just going to support or promote rather our next session. We will be looking again at our health industry and technology innovation, identifying ways to make the virtual emergency department more accessible for older adults. So this is an AgeWell funded project. So Dr. Justin Hall and Dr. Sandra Hitzig will both be there to answer your questions and tell you more about the work that they're doing. Thanks again for you both. Remember, this webinar is being recorded. I'll share I'll share the links with everyone. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks, Alison. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye. Thank you.